them off so you can hear us, but if you guys wouldn't mind keeping them on, that would be great.
Thank you.
I'm curious, I think you guys are one of the first people to get to see this in black and white. Did anyone here see it in color before seeing it in black and white? It's amazing how
Thank you.
great it looks. I guess my first question to you guys is, what was the thinking behind releasing it as a black and white version?
Well, it was kind of shot as, I would say, a black and white movie in color. You know, Guillermo does everything quite deliberately, down to the last fleck of paint, and the contrast ratios were done in such a way, and the grayscale, that it was meant to feel noirish, even though in color it's quite a bit more grand. So, it was one day, and I think it's funny, I think he showed us separately, and I'm not sure if that was to build consensus or whether someone would say he was crazy, but he pitched us separately on, you know, come over to the computer, take a look, black and white. It's like, yeah, it looks cool. Like you could really see the, you know, the guys in the garden against the snow with the dark coats and everything, especially in the second half of the movie. And it looked pretty strikingly amazing. And then, of course, the lighting, you know, the noirish lighting in terms of the shadow, especially on Lilith and Stan, again, especially in the second half of the movie, is very noir. So it kind of started to become a discussion, and that discussion built, and eventually we were like, yeah, we you know, it's a slightly different movie, but it's a great movie in black and white. So we made the decision to do it.
Was there any possibility you thought about it, like doing the main release in black and white?
Yeah, absolutely. What's so wonderful, I think, that we had the opportunity at Fox Searchlight allowed us to release it in both versions. It's because it was a back and forth, and we talked about it a lot. Because there are, I mean, those who have seen it both ways, I feel like there are advantages to both. There's something about transporting you to that time period in black and white, especially the carnival. The grittiness of the carnival in black and white is pretty deafening, and that was very appetizing to us. But there's something about the buffalo in color that's kind of wonderful too. So, you know, as Guillermo would say, it's between Betty and Veronica. Right?
Yeah, ours you can't choose.
Yeah, so really it's just like, can we, you know, kind of have our cake and eat it too, and release it for those who are interested to see something else that Guillermo was playing with in his mind visually and creatively throughout the whole process.
It's so interesting, and for those of you who haven't seen color, I would recommend going and seeing the color version too, because when I saw the color and then I heard that this was happening, my first instinct was, why would they do that? It's so beautiful, the colors are so incredible, and then I got to see this, and it became very clear. It is a different movie, and it changes the tone of it just a little bit, I think.
Well, you know, it's not a noir movie, but this is more of a nod to noir in black and white. Also, it strikes me that, in a way, especially in the carnival, the color palette is kind of grand, and in a way, watching it black and white for the first time, I don't know how you felt, but I thought we were able to kind of focus on the characters a little more. Like you know, even though it's really a character-driven movie, everything is the story and the character. I really felt myself not being so swept away in the grandness of the color of the carnival, and the grit came through even more, you know, for the characters in that kind of post-depression desperation where nobody's really happy, they're just kind of, you know, grinding it out. You really felt that, you know, the kind of the pain a little more, actually.
Yeah.
And also, in some ways, to me, it feels like a bigger movie in black and white. It actually feels much more epic. That was the other thing we kept thinking about. It was like, wow, it actually feels like it costs more money in black and white.
3 weeks of color correction later, yes it did.
But it really does. It feels like a bigger movie.
I want to go back to the beginning, and Miles, I know you've worked with Guillermo del Toro many times for the last 10 years. This was coming off of his big Oscar win for Shape of Water. What was it about this movie that, why did he want this to be his next film?
Well, I think he wanted to do something different. You know, I mean, to grow as an artist, if you're still doing the same thing every time, you're probably not learning much and growing much. So I think he wanted to do something different. He was always a big student of noir, and you know, he wrote a book on Hitchcock when he was 22 years old that, you know, he could do 2 hours on any Hitchcock movie, including the ones he'd never heard of. So he really knows his stuff, and I think it was appealing to him to try and do something that didn't necessarily include a supernatural character, which is, you know, this film. And then, you know, he kind of had thought about it. Ron Perlman had suggested it, and some of you may know this, like almost 30 years ago after they did the first film Chronos, Ron wanted to do something along the lines of Elmer Gantry, and they talked about what it might be, and he said Nightmare Alley, and it was a Fox film, and Guillermo was nobody, and they told him to go away, we're not gonna remake that. And then all these many years later, Kim Morgan, his now wife, they were looking for something to write together, and she suggested it, and he thought, well, that's kismet that she would suggest it. They wrote it just actually on spec to write it, because they were also obsessed with the author of the book, and then, we had been a Fox for Shape of Water, and all of a sudden they felt a little differently about it, so they agreed to do it, so that's kind of the 30-year trajectory of it.
That's amazing, and then, Bradley, same question sort of for you, you were coming off of Star is Born, and this came your way. What was it about this that made you want to?
By the time it reached me, I think maybe Guillermo, all that history had occurred, but the thing that I felt very privileged to be a part of was his want to explore how we are where we are today as a culture, and how did we get here, and in this sort of morally relativistic world, and what are we looking for, and he really wanted to do an exploration, and I thought, wow, I want to be a part of Guillermo's exploring what it is to be really in a lot of ways this construct of what is the construct of man, and is it a failed construct? That was like pretty scary and terrifyingly wonderful, and that was the experience every day on set. I mean, he really just never gave up trying to just push each scene as far as it could go. What are we really grappling with? Not knowing what the outcome might be. It was dangerous in that way, in a wonderful way, because obviously the cast that he assembled, I mean, I certainly felt safe with everybody. I mean, it was a joke with the people I got to work with. But really, like him wanting to, his relentless pursuit of what do we want? What do we want? We want to be found out. Why do we want to be found out? Because we don't know who we are, and what is important to us? What role do we have? All of these questions that the movie explores is what he wanted to explore as a filmmaker, as a storyteller, and so I just felt so privileged to help be on that ride with him.
Well, you also were a producer as well as acting in it, and I don't know if you guys all know this, but you guys started shooting this, January of 2020?
Yeah.
And we all know what happened a couple months after that. So I find it fascinating. What is it like as producers first? There's this thing that nobody understands is happening, and nobody knows how long you're going to be shutting down for, and I know that he used a lot of practical sets, so I'm assuming it was big production, you're running outside of Toronto. Like, what is the feeling of panic and planning around February, March?
Well, I mean, I could just say, for me, I came into a duo, Miles and Guillermo, who were a machine, such a well-oiled machine. In terms of Guillermo wanting to explore on any given day a certain avenue that maybe hadn't been paved yet or looked at yet, Miles and the whole team would be able to just facilitate that, which is really incredible to observe. And we just all hunkered down and figured out what we needed to do. Thank goodness we made the right decision on March 10th, and we shut down. The Carnival set benefited from it because it got to age over those 6 months, because we shot the first half of the movie second. And oddly enough, that was a complete blessing, especially for Kate Blanchett, who already shot out, so she didn't have to come back. But we got to really look at what we had shot for those first months and play with it in the editing room with incredible editor Cam, who they had worked with on Shape and I think Pacific Rim, or what was the other one? Yeah, he'd been around.
He was an assistant.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, he got the upgrade and fully deserved. And then so we were able to, with Kim Morgan, look at how can we sort of rejigger potentially the first part of the movie because of what we learned shooting the second part. And that was an invaluable blessing that came out of this crisis. And then we went back, and the necessity of having to shoot during COVID was that we came to set an hour before the crew, me and Miles and Guillermo and Dan Louston, the wonderful cinematographer, and we just walked through the day, made sure that we could utilize the time as best we could given these extreme circumstances. And it actually brought us closer, and it was a wonderful experience in that way.
Yeah, you kind of go on a war footing that way because, it's hard enough to make a movie, but when people feel their lives are in danger and they're still coming out, you've got to sort of treat them properly. So we got, our protocols were very tight. There was a lot of testing. We had like a kind of a military hospital with the trailers with the nurses and the testers and everything. And we had, normally it's like all the extras are here in one room, and now we had, these extras had, green masks who were in the foreground closest to the actors, and these extras were in red masks and they were further away, and they would all stay in a hotel with the people who were processing them, and instead of it being, roll camera, action and cut, it was roll camera, masks off, action, cut, masks on. Like the whole thing sort of got different. And we got into a nice rhythm, but it was very different. And when that kind of safety comes into it, you realize that there's kind of something bigger than making movies that you also have to take care of. You have to have people, you're quelling anxiety on top of things. So
talk about for the love of the game. I mean, Shield, we were just talking about the Steadicam operator who, is operating a Steadicam with a face shield and a mask and his glasses, because he has glasses. So his glasses are fogging up, and I'm watching him sweat dripping down, even though it's cold out. He's got 15 layers of North Face on, and you're just geez, everybody's doing it for the love of the game, which was really incredible to be around. I mean, every actor who came, would sit around, and David Strathairn would be on set just to be there. It was very inspiring to watch all of us just rally around our filmmaker.
Well, I'm curious, as an actor now, what a 6-month shutdown does to you once you started to have a character like Sanford?
That's a very good question. Luckily, we pushed the movie 6 months initially for various reasons, and that was a blessing because I was able to work on the script with Ian Kim and also create Stanton with Tim Monick, who I work with in every movie, and so that was invaluable. So Stan was kind of banked, and then I actually during the COVID shot Licorice Pizza, which was crazy, but Stan was there, and once he was there, the pilot light was on. So once we came back, and because of the set design and the costumes, you walk onto a Guillermo del Toro set, and it's a world for you. It's not like you have to use your imagination at all. I mean, everything's there, everything's practical. That was a football field-sized carnival that as we approach, every day you see the distance and you see the Ferris wheel, and you're like, oh wow, and you walk on, you put on the wardrobe, by the time you walk on the set, it's all there.
Yeah, we were going to shoot there was talk of shooting in a studio, and at a certain point we said, no, it has to be real, feel real, have the wind blow through.
Every time we would say to Miles, Miles, we got to shoot that scene, because we did some stage work, and we were just kept trying to push everything to shoot. He's like, no, that wall's gone. We're like, no, we can just put a thing.
It's in the dumpster. But I will say, to your question, Sarah, about Bradley and the Braid, and again, taking what the universe gives you, as we did with the carnival aging, and being able to look at the second half of the movie to have it inform what we were doing in the first half. Bradley also had that time, Stan is different in the first half of the movie, so he was able to, even change his physique over that period of time.
We had a wonderful chef, Kristen O'Connor, who cooked for Guillermo and I, and we decided we could lose 15 pounds, which would help for the first half of the movie where he should be thinner, and then we never would have been able to do that.
And Holt gained those 15.
Speaking of real and this, it's so much snow and a lot of rain, and I'm curious, I know you were shooting in Buffalo and Toronto, but how much of that was actual elements you were shooting in, and how much of it is magic?
About half and half. I mean, it was cold as heck, and there was a lot of snow, and then there was rain, and there's a lot of real thunder and lightning that's in the movie.
Yeah, I mean, if anyone noticed, and New York Pride on Buffalo for everybody, we were up there, and that's Buffalo City Hall, it's beautiful. Those scenes where Stan's, coming up, if you notice, everyone's got their hands on their hats because it was blowing 100 miles an hour. We did Buffalo 4 times to scout, and it was all really nice, and we were going, come on, what's the, Buffalo's getting a bad rap on the weather. We got there, it was like, it put us over, it's me. I mean, it was really.
Yeah, I never shot that, and it
Great.
was
Yeah, survival.
Good opening. Yeah. Even the carnival, I remember the scene where Santa's the big thing where he's got to basically grift this marshal. right? And the hope is you believe that like he actually convinced the marshal. It was so cold that night, and eventually I was like, can he even understand? Because my mouth just stopped moving, and so I was like, just had to talk as fast as I can. This makes it so cold. Is my mouth even moving?
And Miles, you did just tell me something before we came out about during that 6 months, a lot of things changed for a lot of people. Can you tell one of the scenes that you just pointed out to me, Rudy Mara?
Well, yeah, amongst other things, we had to reschedule, all of our great actors who were all very much in demand, as you can imagine, all had other projects scheduled in behind us, and everything had to be worked out to get those people back. Again, Kate was lucky, she got out, but everyone else, Willem and Tony, we were ready to start shooting the carnival in March. They had shown up to start their hair and makeup, but they hadn't shot anything yet. So, Tony had to scramble back to Australia. Anyway, so a lot of that 6 months was spent with other, organizing the projects. But the week we were in Buffalo, Rooney called me to the trailer and said, I've got something to tell you. And she said, I'm going to have a baby now. I'm like, oh, that's amazing news. Like, when? So, I'm doing some mental math in my head, and I realized, okay, it'll be in May, and we'll be done in May. She'll be 6 months. The baby was going to happen in August. So, great, so happy for you, Joaquin, that's amazing, and happy. And then, of course, we stop, and the whole thing changes. So she has a baby. Now we have to give her some time. She came back after a month after she had her first child, which was pretty heroic to starting it, but now we had to completely reschedule that. But what I was telling Sarah is that the scene in the bus station when Stan comes to get Molly, and we shot that part of it in Buffalo in January, and then when they go through that door, there's a wipe. I don't think I'm giving away any great secret. And then they go into the bathroom, and that scene was shot in a different country about a year later, and the baby was 5 months old. So that's a trick.
That's how it's kind of, I guess, what it's actually going on for. I mean, but it's amazing. I just watched it with that knowledge, and you can't just.
Yeah, we stopped during the lie detector scene, and then when we picked back up, we literally picked back up right where we stopped. So that whole scene is a 6 month gap in between, like, one person talking to another.
Do you guys feel like now going forward with other projects, you're going to need a 6 month stop? What?
No, but I do have this thing I'm going to do, which is nice, like a little 6 week gap.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, out of necessity just because of location, but I'm going to use that the same way we did, where you look at all the footage and maybe it'll inform.
You said that when you were watching the footage, you started figuring things out, and like, I'm just sort of curious, what were some of the things that you took away from it? Because a lot of times, on productions, you don't have that luxury to like really take a look at things and be able to change accordingly.
Well, for example, we shot the scene when she interrogates, probably an interesting use of word, when she does the therapy for Stan. And he talks about Pete. I hadn't met Pete. David hadn't shot a frame, so it was really interesting to then go to see that scene and work with that scene in the editorial way, and then just see, what can we do with that Pete-Stan relationship to make that scene as impactful as it can be. So it was really about mining. I say the major evolution was the Stan-Pete relationship in the first half of the movie was informed by that scene between Stan and Lilith in the second part of the movie. Yeah.
I'm curious with this kind of cast. I mean, every single person in this movie is an incredible actor. What is it like as a producer now to like have this like talent that's like stable of immigrants basically there? And how do you even begin to go about?
Well, it's thrilling.
Yeah.
It's you realize that it will probably never be that good again. For me, actually, and I've said before, one of the greatest joys of my job is to actually watch great actors work. When you can see that technique and you can see that nuanced work. And the week that we were in Lilith's office with Bradley and Kate was just like a career high kind of week because they weren't just doing it either. Like they were really exploring and working it out, and it was kind of like a little bit of a workshop in a way where it was such an important part of the film. So to watch the two of them was pretty thrilling. But then it was great for Bradley. It's like this is Willem Dafoe week, and this is David Strathairn's week, and this is Tony Collette week, and I said to Guillermo when he cast Mary Steenburgen we gotta stop with the movie stars and underdogs, and we just cast somebody that nobody's ever heard of. Because it looked like we're trying too hard, but it was really remarkable because I think, all of those actors, really as great as they were, and it's, hard to believe, I think they brought each other up. They were greater than the sum of their parts in most of those scenes, so that was really a joy.
I have to say, every one of those actors have movies, each one of those characters, the whole movie could be about each one of those characters. And that's the way it felt for me every time I would walk on set, and then all of a sudden, I'd see the silhouette of somebody, and it was Clem, it wasn't even Willem, it was Pete, it was Molly, it was Lilith, it was, that was it. Even Paul Anderson, who played the geek from Peaky Blinders, and he was incredible. And Holt and Mark Povinelli, who plays the Major, and Ron Perlman plays Bruno. Like everybody, it was just, and Judge Kimball was a great Canadian actor. Everybody was just brought it so hard. It was, but it really felt like it was like these characters, like just coming, completely coming to life, just walking onto the set,
Well, it's an amazing movie. Thank you so much for coming here to talk about it, and thank you everybody here for staying.
Thanks.